airbrushing. Hey guys, I figured I'd do a quick little video on the airbrush system that I use. Most of the paint that I use, you're looking at the air paint, but I do thin down and use other paints as well. I've used Citadel, I've used army paints in my airbrush because you can always add a little bit of thinner, make it work for you, and still be able to use those paints too. Generally, if I use my airbrush, I'm using it for either just doing a quick base coat to speed up time so I don't have to spend as much time sitting there with my paintbrush shading, you know, like you've seen in the previous video, where I use some of the Citadel shade, or I might even use some of the tone washes from army paints. Just because I like being able to just push that stuff around with the air of the brush when I want to be able to fill in little cracks and crevices of the actual character, and it works really well. As far as for the equipment though, this actually came with my paint in a kit, about 180 bucks. I'll put a post for it from Amazon. This has been a fantastic airbrush. I'm very happy with it. It's easy to break down clean. It's gravity fed, so you can work with low pressure. You can adjust how much air you get. You can be just a little bit or lots. And you can also adjust how much paint you're going to apply, either a little bit or lots. Takes a little bit to get used to, right? I tend to actually fit my finger in and then use my thumb. So I've got two things to control: how much air and how much paint I'm actually going to apply. So when I do it like this, I put that finger in there like this, and then that's my control back and forth, and then my thumb on top for how much air pressure. Fine. Rather than trying to do it with one finger, I find for myself anyway that doing a one finger system or just with your thumb, it's easy to slip sometimes and get too much paint or too much air. You know, cradling it with your finger and your thumb, you get good control. That's just a technique I found that works really well. When it comes to my compressor, I have a Magnum compressor. This Magnum compressor has a regulator that I can adjust the PSI that I am going to apply. Now with the PSI, I'm usually around 20, 25. You don't really need much more than that. And it also, when you're using your brush, you're less likely to get a big burst or something by accident, because the max PSI is only 20 or 25. Depending on what you're doing, you can actually lower it even lower than that, but if you get good with this, 20 is pretty much right where you need it. You get your max, and you can always control your minimum with your gun. The other thing that's really important with these is also having a good moisture trap, because this will also make a difference in your paint. If you don't have a moisture trap, you end up getting moisture coming through your line, and it affects your paint. And then next thing you know, you end up getting washed out, or you get bleeding with your paint and you can't figure out why. And it's because you're getting an additional moisture added, and you don't want to have that. So a good moisture trap, you definitely want to have that as well. This particular unit, it's a little taller. It comes in its little case. It has a place for your airbrushes. If you have a T, you can have a couple of different airbrushes and put them up here if you'd like. The compressor, this one here, like I said, is a little taller, is because it does actually have a tank in there, so you can see I was there. So now the compressor is just going to sit there and fill this little tank. It's a 3-liter tank. It's pretty common for most of these units. There we go. So now that it is no longer filling the tank, I can actually control my brush You know, do some painting, you know, for about a good 25-30 seconds or so before it'll kick back on and refill the tank again. You do kind of get a little more consistency, really, because you're getting that constant feed. Some machines, if they don't have a really good compressor to keep up with the demand coming from your airbrush, you know, when they kick on to supply more air, right, sometimes there's a drop in how much air provision that it has, and then climbs back up again. So that can affect how much is actually coming out. So, you know, having a tank I find is actually kind of handy. Don't go too cheap with these. You can get them out there for sometimes like 80 bucks. But apparently there is a difference when it comes to the compressors and the components and stuff that they make in them. You know, 80 bucks, okay, if you're just starting, you know, that might be okay. There's probably going to be a very good chance you're going to be buying another one very shortly. You know, and that's just because of the fact that they're made with cheaper parts, just like anything else. You get what you pay for. Anything that I post a link for on Amazon, the prices are going to be decent, it's going to be a decent product, and it's safe to say that you can buy it there. Now, of course, there's also tons and tons of different things out there. You've got airbrushes from Badger, there's like a Patriot brand, there's even stuff that you can buy at like Michael's or Canadian Tire here in Canada anyway. You know, there's tons of stuff to explore, you know, but like anything, just research it, check it out. You know, that's what this whole video was about for you guys, was just to kind of show you what I'm using, give you an example, like, you know, like when it comes to the airbrush from Vallejo, right? So it comes with their paints, and like I said, it works great for me. And you know, if you go out there and you buy this paintbrush, you're not going to be disappointed, right? If you've heard from other people that there's a particular one from Badger that's amazing, or you've got a friend that uses one and, you know, this one can't be better, hey, I'm not saying that it is, it's just what I use and it works great. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, you know, it's just, this is something I find that works well. And if you're kind of indecisive as to what you want to use, if you do choose this, you're not going to be displeased. However, if you like Badger or you like Patriot or you like any other brands, you know, then by all means, like, I'm sure there's a lot of really great brushes out there that you can use. You know, this wasn't really a video about technique. I showed a couple of things like what I like to do. I'm sure there's, you know, other painters out there that have been doing this for years. They're like, you know, he's an amateur. It's basic painter. You know, just give you some basic ideas, right? But at the same time, you know, there's also some really great videos out there on how to airbrush, right? So I'm not going to go into that. There's tons of videos you can already watch, right? You know, I just figured I'd show what I'm using, how it works for me, a couple of techniques that I like to do, like using the shades, which a lot of people don't. Maybe there is, I don't know. But one of the techniques I like to use, and how I like to hold my brush, and the equipment that I use, right? So any of the equipment that I can give you a link to from Amazon so that you can check it out or purchase it yourself, I'll put it in the links below. Other than that, we'll see you on the next video.